Hey there, really glad you joined. And today I want to talk about how to gracefully stand your ground. Coming from a toxic system growing up and having survived so many of the toxic systems that we have as a society, whether it's the religious system, the educational system, our system of government, our financial system, and definitely the workplace. Um, it takes a lot to understand how to move through it with grace. And that came after a bit of time for me and experience. So the first thing that I had to understand was there was a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that I had a right to stand up and to have my own preferences and discern whether something felt good or not. And once I realized, yeah, no, this system, this circumstance, this doesn't feel good, I had to understand that it was okay for me to make a shift and make a change. So I had to understand that I was not a victim in that circumstance. And let me give you a practical example. I was married to a man that I absolutely did love and adore, but I was feeling my energy being depleted, eroded. I was carrying more than my fair share of the responsibility within the relationship. And this man was an alleged narcissist. So ultimately, after trying to work it out with integrity, a line was drawn and he sued me for divorce. And I had to understand that this was the universe doing for me what I could not do for myself because there was no way that I was strong enough to leave that relationship on my own. So I had to understand that diving into this process or having this process really foisted upon me was a gift. It was absolutely a gift for the process of evolution, a raising of my consciousness and my frequency, because being in this relationship was eroding my confidence. It was eroding my vibration. I was going more and more into anger, into rage, into victim mode, into martyrdom. And my life was getting smaller and smaller. So I had to realize I needed to stand up. And within that scenario, even though it was difficult, I had to realize that I was not a victim of the scenario, that this was the universe presenting me with an opportunity to learn, to evolve, to change, and to grow. And it was one of the scariest experiences that I've had to move through as an adult because I had to break a lot of old belief systems. And believe me, this goes back in the lineage. There were a lot of really tough partnerships and marriages that I've seen back through the ancestry. And a lot of the women and the men chose to stay within the toxic circumstance, but I, like my mother, chose to leave the toxic circumstance. So here I am, terrified, and I had to understand that this was a circumstance working for me, not against me. And I had to move through this circumstance with grace, with fortitude, using tools of support that I learned, which were somatic modalities, going inside my body, listening and deciphering and discerning that small voice inside there that had really tried to guide me. I mean, my whole life, but I would just discount and dissuade. So listen to that inner voice and say, hey, maybe you have a point here, and start to follow it, to explore the trauma pockets inside my body that were causing me such fear, such terror of moving through this experience, of being without my partner, of having to stand on my own 2 feet. And this was when I was the one, again, pulling most of the weight within the relationship. Even my divorce attorney said to me, you're not going to have any trouble. And I didn't know what he was talking about because I was so filled with fear. But what I needed to do was to stand up and face the fear and move through it and get the support that I needed, not act out within the circumstance and really think things through, and more importantly, feel them through. And not to blame my ex-husband to be, but to thank him for being such a great teacher for me to understand that I needed to get out and I needed to treat myself better and find compassion and authentic love for myself, and that it was finally time. And I didn't make him the predator, the perpetrator. I tried to look at him as a teacher, and it was hard. And it was hard even years later to look at him that way, but I knew that was the answer. And as a result of that, I was free from all those labels, all that victimization, all the poor me's. I could lift myself up out of that pretty quickly and understand, okay, I'm doing this for the betterment of my own soul. And actually, after all was said and done, and the paperwork was signed, and I gave him his six-figure check so he could move on, I really understood, yes, that was the right thing to do, because miracles started happening in my life, and I started to have more energy, and I started to notice that I was feeling less anxious, and things were working out to my benefit. That garage that was stored floor to ceiling with his collectibles, I transformed into an income suite. And that paid for half my mortgage and my taxes and my insurance, and allowed my son and I to stay in that home, even after the divorce experience, and stay there comfortably. So just by stepping up to this and then not making him my ruler, the one that held power over me, that I was victimized by, no, I had to drop that. That was key. I had to see him as the instigator, as the catalyst to transform me and shove me into a new zip code, a new way of being. And that was a very specific example of how I gracefully moved through some trauma and some chaos. And I think that's more and more important nowadays, as we're seeing our systems starting to crumble, and as we're starting to have that mirror reflected back to us as far as our own behaviors that maybe aren't the best behaviors for our betterment, for our well-being, where our codependencies are, where we're playing small, where we're accepting abuse and use, and where we can say goodbye to it with strength and with fortitude, and also with love and with compassion. So I really encourage you to move through your circumstances with love and compassion. And if you need help with that, please visit susangold.us. There's free tools. There's a free course on toxicity. There's a newsletter to sign up for, and there's a Taste of Freedom session if you'd like to have one with me. And I also have one-to-ones available. So I'm looking forward to continuing to walk through this together with you, and to stand up, a day at a time. It is a really interesting, energetic time on this earth, and you are not alone if you are seeing behaviors rise that you'd like to shift, or circumstances that you can no longer tolerate. Believe me, these are blessings in disguise, and ways to move you to the next right place, comfortable place, to live the life that you were meant to when you decided to come to this planet. So hope that's helpful. If you liked it, please let me know, comment below, and subscribe if you feel moved. And until next time, please know that you're not alone. We are in this together. Take good care.